come to my mind. We had a great run of it. He's a great coach, and I'm proud to have him as a friend and proud to have had the times that we had. We just had a great experience. What?
Do you think you can answer Barry's question now?
I've never been able to know why. But that, not just that, but
Well, good Friday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Booth Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having a great day. It's finally freaking Friday. The weekend is upon us, and I gotta say, I cannot wait to enjoy the weekend. Not that any day is different than the others, but every weekend gets us one weekend closer to the beginning of the NFL season. And I want to remind you guys, see, we're kind of in the lull right now because we've done quite a bit in free agency. The funny thing is, we get so much out of the talking heads. They get us so worked up. They tell us what we're not going to do and how bad we're going to be, or the mistakes that we make, and so on. I was listening to Mike Fisher yesterday morning, and it was funny because he was pointing out the moves that we've made that have been cost effective. We've gotten slammed for that. And then we were going to be slammed because then we were looking at ones that cost more. There is no win when you're the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody knows the Cowboys move the needle. The thing that's going on right now, of course, is Micah Parsons and his contract. The fact that we're actually working on it allegedly right now, to me, is a great thing. And I want to remind people, because I know we as Cowboy fans have been disappointed that we've not been to the Super Bowl in 30 years. I was listening to my buddy Gridiron Blitz, who's a Lions fan, whose team has never, ever been to a Super Bowl. So sometimes you have to count your blessings. And we've got this thing that's going on where, you know, the Cowboys are finally doing some things, but we as fans are sitting here like, oh man, this ain't good enough, this ain't good enough, this ain't good enough. But we've seen teams, now keep this in mind, teams that have spent more in free agency over the last 8 years or so, I believe, are the Jets and the Commanders. And I'm going to say probably the Commanders have probably spent more money in free agent big signings than anybody. When you think about the Hainsworth, the Adam Archulettas, the Deion Sanders throughout, and they've never won a Super Bowl with that. It's the teams that are decent, that are good already, that have a foundation, that top it off with free agents. So we'll see how all this works, because those two teams, the Jets, are the longest team that has not been in the playoffs. That's how crazy it is. And for those out there who don't like Brian Schottenheimer, understand Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator that took Mark Sanchez to 2 or 3 AFC championship games. Butt fumble. So keep that in mind. And we're sitting here going through and we're killing Micah Parsons, you know, and saying that he's not a team player and this, that, and the other. Let me take you back a few years, okay? I want to take you back and remind you to count your blessings at least on this season. I can't guarantee that what we have done is going to give us different results. But like the lottery, they say, you can't win if you don't enter. But this was like 4 years ago. Listen to how bad things were this offseason.
Think about how negative it's all been.
Yeah.
And I, you know, God bless the Cowboys. I know you guys are the flagship. They let you guys say whatever you want to say. For like my time, my 3 years there's only one time, Sean, that they said, yeah, don't ask that question. Everything else, it's been fair game.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that. We start with the Washington Commanders.
Yes.
Their flagship station saying, oh, thank God we can talk about the Commanders now. no longer affiliated with them.
Right.
So, but I looked at really, when I looked at just like a day-by-day timeline. You know, they beat the Eagles on January 8th. They lost 2 out of their 3 games, right? They blame the officials for basically 2 of the 3 losses, which is terrible. Dak Prescott sits there and endorses fans throwing junk at officials after the San Francisco game. He has to come out and apologize. You've got a PR director who retires. No big deal. 2 weeks later, there's this horrible story about him being accused of voyeurism, which he denied.
Yep.
But the Cowboys have to throw a $2.5 million check at 4 cheerleaders. Dak Prescott has another surgery. The Cowboys trade a wide receiver that they used the number 1 pick on back in 2018 in exchange for a 5th because the coaching staff doesn't like him, right? Then they give all this money to a guy who tore his ACL on January 2nd. Michael Gallup's not going to be ready for camp, right? Tank Lawrence is their best pass rusher. He comes back, that's a highlight. Jerry Jones gets named in a, Springer-like lawsuit. Randy Gregory, whom the Cowboys stuck by despite the fact that he had done nothing for them for years, gives them the middle finger, right, on a flip. Then they've got to cut Lyle Collins because the coaching staff didn't like him. But they kept their punter.
Mac, why is Stephen Jones the Alan Greenspan?
There you have it.
That's a great one-liner, by the way.
Thank you very much. Because it's so, we see all these teams talk about, we're in cap hell, and then they go out and they trade for Tyreek Hill, or they make these giant moves and add this big contract. I know the salary cap is a real thing, and I've talked to Stephen Jones, whom I like a lot, and he has come to admit and embrace the idea, if you're going into free agency, that means you're overspending on that player because you made a big mistake 2 or 3 years ago.
That's Stephen Jones.
Okay, that's fine. That's sound philosophy.
Yeah.
And are you getting any better? The Dallas Cowboys today on March 25th, are they any better today, Sean?
No
than
way.
They were on. Okay.
And no one, not even the biggest Homer fan. I mean, not even Mickey Spagnola would make that kid. Mickey might. Mickey might, but
he tried.
Yeah, he would try. But I don't think anyone would say that. They all say it's early. It's early.
Oh, I know. And are they going to? There's nobody left that they're going to get off the street that's going to make him any better. The only thing that's going to make him any better, they think Dak Prescott is as good as Aaron Rodgers, that they can put pretty good players around him and he'll make them great, and they'll win 10 or 11, 12 games. And the NFC East still is garbage.
Yes.
Not anymore.
And the NFC.
Yeah. It absolutely baffles me just how bad this division remains. And if you're like, well, where's our...
Mac, the greatest stat right now in sports, the most embarrassing, 17 straight years without a back-to-back division winner in that division.
There you go.
That
was it.
And there still hasn't been. So I want you to think about what you just heard there, how little the Cowboys did other than signing Michael Gallup, who had torn his ACL. He literally tore it on January 2nd. This was the 25th of March. So almost 4 years ago today. Now, here's the thing that's interesting to me, okay? I know we're sitting here and we're like beating ourselves over the head because we're looking at these guys that are signing 1-year contracts and stuff. But, I'm sitting here thinking about something, and you can call me crazy, okay? I am a student of history. I'm actually on the Waynesboro Historic Commission now, so it's like that's now part of my job description and things, is going back through history because we forget about a lot of things that have happened and transpired. And I show this to let you know the ineptitude of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys having good seasons and then not following it up. So you can look at the Commanders. The Commanders are the polar opposite of what we were. The Cowboys, 12-5 season, good season and everything else, and they back off. They end up getting rid of talent and not replacing it and saying, we're all in. That's literally what we do. What has Washington done? They made it to the NFC Championship game. I can't guarantee that the moves that they made are going to work out. They got rid of some of the fat with the guys like Jonathan Allen that they figure he's a part-time player eating up a lot of money. Let's go younger. And they go out, they make a trade for a Debo. Cost-effective move. They go out, they sign Michael Gallup, who is a year removed from his ACL. another year removed, I should say, a year of getting himself back together after being cut by the Cowboys and things and going someplace else. From what I have been told, that in his mind, he never really felt like his leg when he was back with the Cowboys was 100%. And there is, and I can tell you, when you tear your ACL or you have a major injury, you don't trust it. You're always thinking about it in the back of your head. You're worried that if I really plan on that sucker, that it's going to go. I know that feeling. You get a little twinge and it's like, but it's nothing. And there's that mental aspect. Michael Gallup, he doesn't have to get to be the Michael Gallup of year number 2 to be helpful to Washington. He's just got to be better than the Michael Gallup that was here the last 2 years. If he can stretch the field, they're doing great. They are following up a good season and trying to get more talent. It's what the Eagles have constantly done. We don't normally do that. But I started thinking about some of the guys that we brought in. You guys, let me give you an example here, and maybe this is a better philosophy. More times than not, players have their best season in contract years. They just do. For whatever reason, they seem to be. And maybe it's because I'm going to get paid a big contract, or if I don't perform, I might be out of the NFL. So if you take a guy, for example, let's say Albert Haynesworth, who was considered, one of the best interior defensive linemen. His last year in Tennessee, he had 8.5 sacks from the interior defensive line, 51 combined tackles, 41 solos, 10 assists, 15 tackles for loss, and 22 quarterback hits. And everybody was like, damn. Tampa Bay offered him, I think, a $130 million contract. He took one with Washington that was a 7-year, $100 million contract with $41 million guaranteed. And Washington thought they were going to get the Albert Haynesworth that was the 8.5 sack guy. What they got was a guy whose sack numbers dropped in half. His numbers across the board, his tackles for losses that were 15 the year before dropped to 6. His quarterback hits went from 22 to 13. His sacks went from 8.5 to 4. And then the next year, it was abysmal. It was so bad that literally, I remember being there when the Eagles played him, and Michael Vick literally ran circles around him while he laid there on his fat ass. And was out of the league another year later. And was it because he finally gotten paid and there was no incentive? I don't know. But clearly, when his livelihood was on the line at Tennessee to get the bag, he performed. So enter the Cowboys, with the exception of Solomon Thomas. Every one of these guys have been guys that should have been better than what they have been by where they were drafted. These are guys with a chip on their shoulder with a lot to prove. That they want to make a name for themselves, and they're on a 1-year contract, which means if I perform, I'm going to get paid. I can look at a guy like Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb had been a great receiver for Aaron Rodgers. Randall Cobb, over like the last 3 or 4 years, just steadily just kept dropping to where he had Michael Gallup numbers. The last year he was in Green Bay. Green Bay said, you know what, we're moving on. This guy's spent. He comes from Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers throwing to him 400 some yards. Comes with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and he ends up with 800 and some odd yards, double the production. He's here for that 1 year. He goes to the Texans and signs a $25 million contract. He's rejuvenated his career, got another bag because he played great that one season. You can look at a guy like Robert Quinn. We traded for him. He looked like he was on his way out. He came to the Cowboys, had 11 and a half sacks, got a $75 million contract the next year with the Bears. And mind you, when that happened, we got comp picks because those guys left. It's an interesting strategy. And let's hope that this is the kind of guys we get. So John Machado tweeted out yesterday, Cowboys' new wide receiver, Paris Campbell, on expectations for him in Dallas. I think a big thing is obvious, the speed that I bring. I was just talking to Brian Schottenheimer and offensive coordinator Kate Adams about some of the stuff they're trying to add this year on offense. It definitely suits my capabilities. Speed routes. I just like my mindset and mentality as well. I know Schottenheimer wants to be physical, tough, and fast. That's me. That's how I take the approach to my game as well. That sounds like a guy who is hungry to use his talents to get his shit on track and get paid. Dante Fowler. Now, this is going to be a twofold here talking about Dante Fowler being hungry, but it's also going to turn into the narrative about D-Law. Cowboys defensive end, Dante Fowler, on being back in Dallas. I know this is going to be fast, physical defense. Boy, that sounds like Dan Quinn. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a hybrid, so I can adjust to anything. Whatever the scheme is, I'm going to adapt to it. I'm going to adjust to it, and I'm going to be ready to go. These are guys that are excited about being in Dallas. So when we got D-Law, who kind of bitch slapped the Cowboys and kind of told you that there's a culture problem in Dallas, basically, in reading between the lines, I'm never going to win a Super Bowl there. We've heard guys who have left and said it's all about football, in the places that they've gone. Interesting that Dante Fowler got out. You would think that this is like the movie Get Out, and they're telling you, get out while you still can. Dante Fowler left, had a great season with Dan Quinn in Washington in the NFC Championship game. Yet he wanted to come back to Dallas. He wanted to come back. So maybe in his mind, there's not the problem in the locker room that's being made up. Here's another strike against it. Rico Dowdle. Rico, who had his best season as a pro, out there on the market, commented about D-Law. This is interesting because you would think Rico would be upset. They didn't offer me big money. I wanted to go back. You would think that he would be on the slapping parade for the Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence said he left the Cowboys because he knew he would never win a Super Bowl there. Another offensive departure wants to, excuse me, add a little nuance to those thoughts. Rico Dowdle, a 1,000-yard rusher last season, left the Cowboys for the Carolina Panthers and recently asked about Lawrence's thoughts. Dowdle had a sneaky way to point out the flaw in Lawrence's thinking. People got their own thoughts and opinions, Dowdle told The Atlantic. Obviously, DeMarcus has been there for some years. 11. 7 without Micah. So that's just his thoughts and opinion. He hasn't won a Super Bowl in his time there, so I guess he felt like he could never win one. Wow. Interesting. Now, Rico left mainly because it wasn't really a great running back market out there. And the Cowboys, probably looking to go younger and hopefully a little bit better in that situation. But you could have had Rico open it up and basically saying, F them boys, right? But he didn't. Now, here's the thing I'm going to say. Forgive me. I'm sorry. I've got a sinus issue. What's interesting is last night, Micah Parsons had a community event, his fundraiser. And his fundraiser had not just himself, his fundraiser had some of his teammates. Let's pull this up here real quick. Had some of his teammates, his coaches, and other NFL players there together with him. Here's an interesting one right here for you guys. Oh, broadcast media. Make sure you guys can see that real good. Okay, there we go. Osa and Digazua there with Micah Parsons. Super blessed to be able to support my brother, Osa and Digazua. Osa has his charity event, I believe, on the 27th. And Micah Parsons dropping a check to help out his teammates' foundation. It was funny because last night, before you comment on something, you should make sure you've got all the facts there. Because last night I did a video on Micah Parsons. Basically, I was going through like I was angry. Oh my God, Micah Parsons has gone too far. It was, satire, fake outrage about Micah Parsons not focusing in on football, that he's out there doing a charity event instead of focusing in on being the best defensive end in football. And, I lived it up for about 4 or 5 minutes before I actually said what it was he was doing. So people probably watched the first 2 or 3 minutes. They're like, they thought it was crazy. They said I needed to get back on my meds and so on. And we're like, you've been on Micah Parsons' side. Now you're flipping on the ace. Like, what do we have here? You have multiple personalities or something? No. But I was trying to show the bullshit that you get. That there's a locker room problem. That the coaches are tired of his stuff and so on. And that the Cowboys need to move on from him. And here we have it. Community event to help Micah Parsons Foundation. Teammates are there. Coaches are there. Giving back. I don't think that the problem is what everybody thinks it is. And I think more of anything else, the D-Law situation is more of, I'm not there anymore. And I believe the problems the Cowboys have had, because we're going full circle now, the problems we've had are because of the culture and the Cowboys' lack of following up. Lack of following up on good seasons and taking advantage of things. We cannot think that we are so good after having a 12-5 season that we end up losing Leighton Vander Esch. We let Hankins go. That we end up losing Dante Fowler, who has 10.5 sacks. We lose Dorrance Armstrong. We lose Zach Martin for most of the season. We lose Biotish. We lose Tyron Smith. We start 2 rookies. And we bring in Linval Joseph after training camp and Carl Lawson after training camp. And we bring in Eric Kendricks and Zeke Elliott and say, this is a team that's ready to challenge the Eagles that are loaded. We should not be that stupid. And we need to go ahead and remember that instead of doing what we do, other teams are trying to get better. And that maybe this year, the Cowboys are actually starting the process of that. Now, I've kind of gotten long-winded here, and so this video is going long, but I've got a crazy thought here You know, the Cowboys, whether you like it or not, they've taken care of depth issues. They've gotten themselves into a better position depth-wise. We've got some guys that are going to be hungry to perform for their next contract. We're getting ready for the draft. We've got 3 picks in the top 100 and a possibility to get some playmakers. We have $39 million in cash and more once we get Micah Parsons done. And one other thing on Micah Parsons here, this is interesting. Shout out John Machado is the man. He's the one who had the Paris Campbell and the Dante Fowler tweets. He had this one on Micah Parsons. I asked if he's disappointed that he doesn't have a new contract from the Cowboys. He said no and started to explain, but the staff member said the interview would only include questions about the event. Interesting. So he said no. Micah Parsons not mad about it. No, he understands this is business. We're talking. And the longer I wait, the more money I get. I could be CD Lamb and wait till the end of training camp, maybe not have to put in so much work, and still get the bag. He knows that time is on his side. And I'm going to finish this off this morning. I hate to continue to beat down on D-Law. But remember, this was after losing to San Francisco without Micah Parsons.
We have DeMarcus Lawrence. Go ahead.
DeMarcus, how would you address the defensive struggles you had as a unit today on that side of the ball?
In my own words, I'll call it soft. We got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We got to play together as one. And I don't feel like we're holding ourselves accountable, including myself. So I call the shit soft, and we'll get better from it.
Marcus, how surprising the run defense what happened today?
Say it again.
How surprising is it to see this today? You know they're going to run the ball and they're able to go for 307 yards.
Yeah, it's not no surprise. I mean, we just got to do a better job of preparing and, really come with our full hearts in the game and play this game for 60 minutes straight. It's just all about bowing down and really showing, that you're a real man out there and playing together.
DeMarcus, do you think your scheme is sound enough to try and stop offenses moving forward?
It's not my job to think about what's right or what's wrong. My job is to go out there and try to make as many plays to help my team win the game. And I don't feel like I'm doing that right now, and I'll get back to it.
Marcus, why do you think this team is 1-3?
Like I said, we came out the gate soft. And in different words, I can call it something else, but it's just all about having some grit and, playing balls to the wall and going out there and giving it everything you got.
Marcus, y'all have had challenges against the passing game in recent weeks, but today the rushing game was a big problem as well. How do you fix that?
You cut it in and out. You said about fixing it, something.
In recent weeks, the passing game had challenged y'all primarily, but today the running game was a big problem. What do you attribute that to, and what's the key to fixing that?
Just growing up and playing like real men out there, and not like kids. We got to attack people before they try to attack us, and I feel like we're doing a lot of catching, and we're going to get better from it.
Mark, this isn't an inexperienced unit that you guys have out there, especially up in the front.
Right.
Why aren't you guys attacking? Why is it more sitting back, like you kind of said?
Like I said earlier, it's not my job to, worry about scheming or worrying about what the next man doing. I already got a hard enough job myself. But like I said, it's all about just attacking, and I don't feel like we're doing that at all as a unit.
You've been here for a while, knowing the nucleus of this team. Is
Is it a little bit surprising you found yourself in this spot right now?
I wouldn't say it's surprising. If you think you're going to sit here and get a whole new coaching staff and, win every game and shoot for the stars, you got a big surprise coming. And, that was our surprise. Even we got so much talent, but, without that grit, without that toughness, talent don't mean nothing in the NFL. So it's all about us coming together, figuring it out, and getting better from it. I appreciate y'all time today. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. As always, good people, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And the cake is not finished baking yet. The cake is not finished baking. And don't fall for the okey-doke bullshit that you're getting out there. Yeah, there's problems with the Cowboys. Yeah, there's more things they can do. I get that. But it's not as bad as what people are making it out to be. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.